letting me share a part of my story, a part of my life with you. I'm so honored to be here and to stand before you and see all your smiling faces. Thank you. Okay, so I want to share this with you. This is the 2001 Des Moines Register, and every year, every spring, the Des Moines Register does this huge fashion spread as they get ready for springtime. And in 2001, I was the cover. And so this is not something that, I'm accustomed to. This doesn't happen to me like, woo, I'm on the cover of the spring fashion spread. And so when it, came out on a Sunday, and so I went to church, and like you did, my friends applauded, and they were like, way to go, Lucretia! That is so awesome. However, for me, it is a source of dread and a reminder. So I'll tell you why. Once upon a time, I was Black. And I was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, right up the street, an hour right up the street, and in the 70s, 1971. So do the math. Yes, that makes me 42. So Winston-Salem, like the South, was still pretty segregated by then. I mean, yes, there was integration, and so schools were integrated and job places were integrated, but for the most part, your social life, my social life, my personal life, church life, was still very segregated. So I was, so in that context, that's when I learned a lot about race. Race was the primary narrative for me. And race was the well that I drew from to learn about where I came from, who I am, and who I was going to be. For example, when I went to preschool, I was one of, my brother and I, we were like one of the first Black families to attend this preschool that was majority white. It was a Moravian preschool. So against that backdrop, that's when I kind of learned that, I'm different. And there was a name that was ascribed to that. And I remember one time we took a field trip to the local grocery store, and the lady behind the counter says to the director of the preschool, "I didn't know you were accepting darkies." And the lady in the preschool was livid. And by this time, I felt so bad for the director because she loved me dearly, and she loved all the children dearly. So I just pretended like I didn't hear it, and I kept walking, but she laid into that lady. To this day, when I drive past that place, I roll my eyes. And then, everything, the school curriculum. When we would learn about, during Black History Month, during February, Black History Month, and we're learning about African Americans who have made history. Well, in another light, that had me thinking that, well, Black people or African Americans, like there must be something that's not right with us, because if we're celebrating the few people, these 10 people, probably not 10, Martin Luther King and probably two more people, then that's pretty much the context in which I'm learning. I'm learning race. And then I remember actually learning in 5th grade, hearing a teacher say that Black people had not contributed much to the history of the United States. And so as a child, I just thought, well, I guess I will contribute a lot. I'll be different, and I'll contribute a lot to the development, of my country. And then I remember being in high school, and the chemistry teacher, and in my high school, again, it's integrated, probably 50-50, white and Black. And I remember the chemistry teacher said, I had made an A on my chemistry test, and he says, "Well, I didn't know Black people were that smart." And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Okay. So, and because of how North Carolina, the school system puts students in tracks. So academically, I was considered somewhat gifted. So I was oftentimes one of the only black, either I would be the only black or one of like 3 or 4, like in the quote unquote honored or advanced learning classes. So again, sitting in the classroom, and then whenever any subject about Africa or black people or something would come up, then, the teacher looks to me or to us, or the students look, and they would have all kinds of questions like, why is your hair like that? And why are your lips so big? And why, just all these questions. Again, race being the pervasive and the primary narrative. Even at my high school, we had, homecoming court, so there's homecoming queen. Well, for whatever reason, in our school, we had to have a white queen and a black queen. It was so strange. I still find that so strange. Like, let's just vote. The students would vote, but for whatever reason, like, the vote had to be split. And this is now 1989, 1990. So we had to have a white queen and a black queen. Okay. So what that instilled in me, again, this whole race narrative, that was the loudest voice I heard, and that's what I knew about myself, that I was black. Like, I could be Muslim, I could be Hindu, but still, I'm black. Before my parents knew if I were a boy or a girl, I was black. They knew I was gonna be black. So black was the narrative. And so taking that in, I thought, well, I just wanna be the best black person that I can be. So that motivated me to attend a historically black university, HBCU. I'll say HBCU, so I don't have to keep saying historically black university, college or university. So off I go to South Carolina, the blackest state, by the way, to attend an HBCU, because I was going to get this black thing right, to attend an HBCU. And ironically, I attend a HBCU in the blackest state, and everybody is black. I mean, this university really had very few white people. I remember 2. This one white guy that dated my roommate, that was strange to me back then. And then there was a white girl in my math class. And I remember, because I was so accustomed to being like the only black kid or one of the only black children in my academic classes, I went and sat beside her because I felt like, oh, that's it. I'm supposed to sit, beside this white girl. I'm like, all these black people, like, look at all these black people. Where did all these black people come from? It's all these black people. And in classes with me, like, that was so odd. But anyway, so I'm in a historically black university. And ironically, because I'm there to be like the best black person I can be and to learn more about being black, well, everybody's black. So actually the black narrative softened. Nobody really talked about being black, not very much anyway. And I wasn't pointed out because I was black. Nobody turned to me to ask me the black questions. My teachers expected me to be smart, so nobody ever said I didn't know that black people were that smart. That was the expectation. So really the whole blackness thing really went away. And while I was at the historically black university, this HBCU, I actually started to hear a different voice. So that narrative softened, and I actually started to get to know myself and to pay attention to myself. Like, oh, I'm kind of, I'm a little reserved. I'm a little mellow. I'm very, I'm really loyal and observant. I have a heart for the nations, something like I want to work on an international scale. I don't know, I'm just hearing and learning more about my heart. And so about that time, it's time to move forward to go to graduate school. And actually I was like, well, I want to go to law school, but I'm starting to hear another voice, and the voice is like, go to graduate school. specifically go to Iowa. Mind you, I had never been to Iowa. My family travels, but we traveled up and down the East Coast, so I didn't know anybody who had ever been to Iowa, but I don't have time to tell it all, but really, there was just a series of events that lined up that said, go to Iowa, go to Iowa, go to Iowa, go to Iowa. Even I had a professor take me to a conference, and I ended up sitting beside this professor. He says, I'm a professor in Iowa. Give me your graduate work, your resume or whatever, your application, and I will walk it through. So anyway, that's how I ended up at Iowa State, and I joke that Iowa is where they make the white people. So then I go to the whitest state, and then once again, I find myself in classrooms where I'm the only black person, and the people are looking at me whenever, we go to discuss something, and I'm like, but now I have been de-raced for 4 years. So I have been without race for 4 years. So when they're looking at me, I'm really confused. Like, why are they looking at me? Oh, that's right. They see me as black. Okay, got it. But now I'm in a different place and I know not to respond. And I actually began to because of my graduate studies, a large part of that was multicultural education and anti-racist education. I began to learn about race, and race being a social construction and how it was created, and that's a whole nother thing if you want to know more about that, and how and why it was created, and that it's not a real thing. At the same time, I started attending this church that was actually a historically black institution, a church within Iowa State. And so the church had come out of a gospel choir. That's how it started. And so it remained black, like this is a black entity. Well, got a new pastor, and the pastor said, we are no longer going to be a black church. We're going to be a real church, an at-the-cross cultural church. So I got in my classes, I'm learning one thing, and then in my spiritual life and in my community, I'm learning something else. I'm learning, yes, this same thing. God is tugging me and pulling on me. So I remember sitting in my car, and I'm talking to my friend, and we're essentially having this conversation about the progression of race and how, it's not this real thing. And I really felt like the presence of God coming over me to say that, Lucretia, you know this, like in your head that race isn't this thing. So it can no longer be the source of your identity. It can no longer narrate who you are and where you are going, because I've called you to greater things beyond this social and political construction. And I remember at that moment feeling that anxiety that you talked about, that anxiety and the stress of like, I don't know how else to exist, God. Like, I don't know what else to do. But I remember, like, it's as if God just breathed his reality into me about who I am. And that it will be okay. Yes, we're going to move forward. And I had to leave that. Like, I remember sitting in my little green Hyundai that day, and I had to leave it there, like on the curb, like all of that I knew or that I thought I knew. And I just had to, leave it and move forward. I don't know how to not be black and move forward in that agenda. And then fast forward, I get an opportunity to model. Because I accepted, like, okay, God, all right, I'm going to move forward in being all that you've called me to be. And I get this opportunity to model, and I go to the shoot, and they are shooting us. It was me and a white female and a white male, and we're just whatever they tell us to do. So then they said, okay, now we're going to shoot for the cover. So I just took myself and sat in the corner, because I just was like, well, this is Iowa, like Des Moines, Iowa. It's all white. Like, there's no way they're going to put my brown face on the cover. So I just went and sat in the corner and started playing, do, and then I'll wait till the next scene or whatever. So sure enough, when the paper came out, they had put me on the cover. So while my friends cheered and they thought that was really cool, I was devastated, because in that moment I realized, oh my God, I forgot. Like, that's how much it was so ingrained in me that I just acted out of my old identity. And I went and they didn't even say, hey, black girl, go sit in the corner. This is for the white people. I did it myself. I segregated myself, and I went and sat myself in the corner and didn't participate because of what I thought. And so whenever I look at that picture, that is a reminder to me to not go back to being black, to not go back to that mindset, or to not be held captive to any type of principality or any type of ideology that is not of God. And so, yes, it is, it has been a fight to take those things captive and be fully and come in line with the obedience of Christ. Within a year of that coming out, I was married to a white guy from Iowa. And so now, not only am I walking outside of the race identity and boundaries, but now I'm in covenant, So there's no way that I can go back. I'm forever conscious of the liberty that I have in Christ and my responsibility to continue to move forward and to no longer be a part of the ideology of race. And actually in our house, we are very intentional about being a non-race zone. And again, that's a whole nother story. So thank you for letting me share my story.